For a while, everyone wanted a clamshell, and it seemed like there were none out there except the Palkitty V90, which was not very good. And then Anbernic brought out the Anbernic RG35XXSP, which brought a lot of happiness and joy, but was in a huge handshell. It was kind of heavy. It had a wrong aspect for Game Boy Advance. It had a 4:3 aspect ratio, and it was just big and heavy. And everyone said, okay, I love this, but I'd like something else. Fast forward a year later, and they did bring us the right aspect ratio with the 34XXSP, where we got the 3:2 screen aspect ratio, but it had the big forehead and it had the sticks, which was kind of weird to people. Now, though, we finally do have the RGSP, and today we're going to unbox it and take a look at it and compare it to Miyoo Mini Flip, because the Miyoo Mini Flip is also a diminutive, although a bit smaller handheld. And which one of these is really better? The SP, should you go for the Miyoo Mini Flip? Remember to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. But let's get these open, take a look at them, compare them, and talk about which one you should get. All right, so let's get this thing unboxed here. And this is a new box for Anbernic. I like this quite a bit. It's a quite classy package. With the RG Rotate, they had a nice box as well. They really continue to step up their game and change boxes. But we don't have a whole lot on here. It's just pretty basic, but it does evoke that Nintendo style here. We do have a picture of the handheld on the front of it, along with the RGSP in the colorway. Anbernic on the side. No specs on the box anywhere on the back, but let's get this thing open and take a look and get our first impressions out of the box. Now, I've looked forward to this for a while since they've announced it because I totally love this form factor. We'll get the handheld out of the way. In the box, there's nothing underneath the handheld. There is at the bottom, it's solid. We do have a screen protector. That's always nice to see. Yes, tempered glass, so that's nice. And then we have, presumably, the charging cord. Let's see what's inside this little box here. Should be the charging cord. I don't know. We'll see what else it could be. Yeah, the charging cord. So just your basic USB charging cord, as always. Nothing else really in the box, and that's okay because, you know, everything we need is kind of in here, so there's not really much more to be expected out of this box. But let's get everything put back in here so we can take a look at the handheld. Again, nice box here. I like how they did everything nice and classy. But let's get the handheld out. Now, this is the pink metallic. These are all metallic looking. They're not made of metal, but they are metallic coated, colored paint, something like that. Let's get this box out of here. And first look at it. It already has a nice look to it. And I can tell that it's way more svelte. And wow, look at that. Just like I saw in the pictures. If you look up close, you can see it has a nice texture to it here. That's really nice. Look at that. You can see the texture. We have a nice Anbernic logo here, what it would have said Nintendo. Yeah, this immediately just feels lighter and smaller. It's got a nice feeling to it. I like the way that feels. Let's take a round. We've got the buttons. We'll do some button testing. Those are quiet. Now let's compare it here to the SP, the 34XXSP. We'll just do a little button testing on it. And they feel even more refined. I'd say they're both very quiet. They're very quiet. Now compare this to the original 35XX, and you can hear how that's just louder and clackier. This is V1. This is the original one that came out. I've had it all this time. And then stacking them together, you can just see how they stack up. So looking here, you can see the thickness and the size. And you can just tell immediately the difference here. So yeah, so really good stuff there. The feel of it is good. Let's try this hinge out. The hinge seems to be the same hinge we've been seeing. It does go below, but of course, if you try to flip it, it won't hold that position. That's one of the things that I kind of didn't love about the original. But the hinge seems to be pretty much the hinge we've seen before, which again has been very nice, works very well. Let's see how these look opened up next to each other, all three of these. And yeah, you can see here, this is the 4x3 screen. Then we have the 3x2 screens here, bigger forehead, littler chin, they just swapped. They just kind of swapped it. Because you can see it's a little more svelte. They don't have the sticks here, but there's really the same space. The D-pad feels very similar. It's improved from this D-pad. Buttons, these buttons feel really good. I'd say all the buttons feel the same. These are, of course, smaller and that's metallic texture. We got a speaker here in the center with a screen like that. So pretty much feels refined, improved. On the side here, we do have an SD card slot. We do have our volume rocker. On the bottom, we do have a lanyard hole and a headphone speaker. We have another power slot here. We have our reset button, our power button. On the top, we also do have that HD out, that mini HDMI. We have our USB OTG, and then we have the buttons. So first impressions, holding this, picking it up and feeling it, it feels really nice, really good. It's got that same nice texture that we saw in that cobalt blue, which I really liked on the 34X SSP. Yeah, this is nice, looks great. But when we get back, we're going to take out this guy, the Miyoo Flip, the mini flip, and we're going to do a head-by-head size by comparison on it with the buttons and see which one feels better. We'll be right back. Hey, sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, AliExpress. As you know, they've been a great partner for us, and they have some great sales coming up this month. In fact, check below for the codes and links to the best sales. Follow me on X, where you can always get the best deals, as well as YouTube community below. But I wanted to share with you a product that has got me all tied up. That's right. Look at this. Oh my God, if you're a fidgeter like me, if you have a lot of nervous energy and you like lights and clicky sounds, look at this little keychain. It is a little keychain with clicky keyboard caps that light up and look really cool. And you can get one of these at a very, very modest price. In fact, you can get a set of two like I did to give to your wife or partner. These are pretty neat. They're very loud and they will be annoying to some people, but for me, oh, so satisfying to sit here and click this thing. There's also a lot of other great products you can pick up, including many great handhelds. There are so many out right now, some great ones. Check out our previous reviews. But again, we want to thank AliExpress for always being a partner with us and supporting the channel so I can bring this content to you guys. Anyways, back to the show. All right, so we're going to do the Miyoo Mini Flip. Now, this is a smaller screen, a 2.8-inch screen versus a 3.5-inch screen, so it's not exactly a straight comparison. Miyoo has a nice box here with the logo. It's very plain, not much on it, kind of like but you do get a bag. One of the nice things about Miyoo is that it comes in a case in the box. You can see here it's a pretty nice case here with the Miyoo logo on it. Everything is zippered in. So we'll unzip this and open this up, and inside we have a lanyard here. There's a lanyard. We have our adapter for your headphones, since it doesn't have a headphone jack, and our USB. And then we have a USB key here, or an adapter. Below this, we do have the contents, a little booklet. So this is nice. And you can already tell just how much smaller this is, which if you're looking for something that's smaller, that may be what you're after. We do have a very similar form factor. I do want to point out that the Anbernic retains the headphone jack. With the Miyoo, you have to use the included adapter to do the headphone jack with traditional headphones. But this size is just so much more smaller and pocketable, which of course is a trade-off because the screen itself is going to be smaller. Let's just do a test with these buttons, and they feel very similar. Now, this is a bit larger. I think I like the larger size of the buttons, even though this is a smaller handheld. We do have the HD out here, which you don't have on the Miyoo Mini Flip, so that is one thing to note. On the side here, we'll do the same side here. We have a power and reset button along with an SD card slot on that side. Moving to the other side, we have our volume rocker, again with the SD card slot. And on the Miyoo, you just have the one single SD card slot here on the bottom. And then, so I do like the little design back here, the little texture. This is a smoothness back here on the back of the Anbernic RGSP. You do have a little bit of texture here. I think that's kind of nice. But again, just to show, the difference in size here and just kind of compare the two so you can just see the difference in the size between the two of these. It's quite remarkable just how much smaller that is. And if you're really valuing that pocketability and valuing that size, I think, the Miyoo would be there. But let's open up the screens and kind of take a look at how they look next to each other opened up. And it's even more remarkable opened up. You can kind of see here the difference. You have sort of this bezel-less sort of look to the Miyoo Mini Flip here. It just kind of seems bezel-less. Again, you have this forehead and chin on the SP. Let's test these buttons. And again, the buttons are slightly bigger on the Miyoo. Very quiet buttons. They feel nice to the touch. Let's see, they're very, very close. I think I prefer the size of this and the flatness of this, but very, very nice. Moving over to the D-pad. Now the D-pad's smaller on the Miyoo Mini Flip. You do have a bigger D-pad here on this. You do have a speaker in the center. You both have the menu button there, and you have your start and selects here. So yeah, and then again with the Miyoo, it'll hold that position, where with the Anbernic, it's just not going to hold into that position. So if that kind of matters to you. Overall, these are both fantastic handhelds. I can't say that either one of these are poor handhelds in build quality. They're very nice. They feel nice. They've got good hardware, good buttons. And again, it's going to come down to that size. I give the nod to the bigger feel of the buttons on the Miyoo, the better D-pad on the Anbernic. Of course, the bigger screen with the correct ratio on the Anbernic. This is a 4:3 ratio, but I like the bezel-less on it. And I say I like the larger size of the shoulder buttons as well. Again, both of these are fantastic. I wouldn't say that either one of them are by any means not a great handheld. And it's really hard to pick between the two because they're both fantastic. But when we come back, we're going to show some gameplay footage of both of them side by side and just kind of talk about the overall ecosystem, the software, and the aspects of that portion of it. All right, so let's get each one of them booted up. We're going to just turn them on for the first time so we can see them booting up. And we'll just see if one of the two of them has any advantage here as far as booting up. Looks like the Miyoo might boot up a little bit quicker. Now, these are both Linux-based systems, so they're running Linux firmware. The CPU in the Anbernic is a superior CPU. Between the two, the Miyoo is running the same CPU that was run in the Miyoo Mini, which means it can run custom firmware like Onion, Spruce, other OS. You can run Spruce on this. You can run Nully, a bunch of firmwares on the H700. So between the two of them, you have more freedom with custom firmware currently, I think, on the Anbernic RGSP, but the Miyoo Flip has some. We're looking at stock here, and you can see the sort of aspect here is pretty similar, what they go for, what they're attempting to do is very, very similar here. We'll go into the games for both of these. Go into the game room here. And I guess this did not come with any games on my Anbernic. So let me pause real quick and add some games. Okay, so one of the benefits is I just popped the card out from my 34XXSP. And you can see that it has games here. So I love that you can move the cards around like that. So you can see here, again, a very similar system between the two. This is Game Boy Advance focus. So let's look at Game Boy Advance. And we'll just let it run everything or nothing 007. So you can see here on the screen, it loaded on here with the bezel because this is a 4:3. So it put the bezel down there. You have your full screen aspect ratio over here, so you're getting more real estate. Just on stock settings and the way it loaded and everything, it looks much cleaner and nicer on this bigger screen and brighter. I think the colors look a little better over here on the Miyoo, but you be the judge on which one you think looks best. We'll get into here to the menus. You can see some yellows here. I think the screen is, of course, easy enough to see as it changes through here. If you have aging eyes like me, you may want the little bit bigger screen, but with this bezel-less sort of fee, it looks great. As you hear it load up. And so, yeah, looks great. It sounds really great. And I may have to cut out the sound. So if you don't hear anything, I don't know if there's going to be copyright on the James Bond theme here. But yeah, it looks pretty good, pretty easy to get into. A very similar sort of way to get out of the games, close the content, Exit the game. And let's look at another Game Boy game, just in case, because I don't know. We'll do Advance Wars revision. It looks like the same ROM set between the two. And there you go, loading up, and you can see the Miyoo loaded just a little bit quicker. Again, this looks a little brighter between the two. I'd say it looks just a little bit better. That's pretty nice looking, the screen between both of them. Again, this really favors that pocketability between the two. Let's try turning the sound down. Let's see what a little loud on that. So yeah, that looks just really, really fantastic looking. Take a look at. Now, speaking of systems, in case you're not familiar, each one of these, well, the Miyoo Mini Flip is going to top out at PS1. It's pretty much going to be at PS1 and under. Now, the Anbernic is going to play some Dreamcast, some N64. It's going to play some DS, but those are going to be more like bonus type systems. PSP, I wouldn't really expect it. Now, you do see they do have Drastic loaded on here, so it can play some Drastic, but again, between the two, this is a stronger CPU, so definitely expect to get better experience overall. We'll let some PS play here. We'll go for PS, what it looks like. Now, because 3:2 ratio is a really good ratio for 16:9 and 4:3 content, that is one thing to consider here. So let's see what we got here for games. We got Castlevania on both, so let's play Castlevania. So you can kind of see as those load up and see how they look between the two. This added that nice little side bezel because you're in a 3:2 configuration. It's a 4:3 ratio for that. This is taking full screen here, but it's stretched out. And you can see this still loaded a little bit quicker than the load over on this side, which is kind of remarkable in a way. Both screens look great. Again, this looks just a little bit brighter between the two, at least in this test, but we'll just see if we can get something here to play through on this so you can see it. This is one of my favorite games on PS1, by the way. It's even better on Sega Saturn, but neither one of these is going to play Sega Saturn very well. And look, yeah, it looks beautiful. It looks great. Again, you just have the portability between the two. The sleep function is going to work very similar on both. If we close it, we should see the light go off. It already went off on the Anbernic. And let me peek here. Yeah, the screen went off, so it'll go off and sleep all the way here in a second. And then you should be able to just open it back up and go right where you were at. So that's one of the reasons these clamshells are so popular. Battery life on will take a hit if it's not properly sleeping. So there's always that to be concerned about and wait. But yeah, if I close it, you can see the screen did go off until I open it. Then the screen comes on. It's doing that. So anyways, let's wrap up this comparison video and talk about my thoughts on the new RGSP and how it compares to the Miyoo Mini Flip. So I like this quite a bit. I think the RGSP is definitely an improvement over the previous versions that Anbernic has released. It is like a fine wine. It has just gotten better with age. It's as if they took the original version, the 3.5XXSP, and they simply listened to all the feedback and criticism and just worked to make this the best version available. As far as software, custom firmware, the CPU, everything, it's running the same from an internal aspect. So there's no real differences here. The differences are in the build quality, the way it feels in the hand, the improvements in things like the buttons and D-pad, and the overall just more thin, smaller, less heavy form factor to fit in your pocket. If you really want a portable clamshell that'll go with you anywhere, the Miyoo Mini Flip, the original with the sticks, had a lot of problems with the hinge and a lot of people are cautious. But the Miyoo Mini Flip is not any of those problems. The hinge is not a problem at all. The hinge is awesome. It works very good. It's very small, very pocketable. It has a lanyard so you can hold on to it and keep it with you. It's just a really good handheld. Which one would I get between the two? It's a toss-up for Dead Fred. I like them both. I will say this, if I was going to get an Anbernic Flip, I wouldn't get the sticks. I'd go for the new SP. I think it's just that good. I don't think I'll be using the sticks very often. I appreciate that we have a version with sticks, and for Portmaster and some things like Ape Escape, this may be good for that. So if you're going to play something that has sticks, get the sticks. It's not that much bigger. It's still very nice. It has the same aspect ratio, but it's time to put this guy to pasture unless you just really like 4.3 with some kind of bezel on it. I mean, it's time for this guy to go, be retired, but the rest of them are great. I'd like to see some transparent colors on this. But yeah, I think it's a pretty great handheld. I think they've just done the safe thing and just improved it in ways. But it's great that we have these choices now. These are two great handhelds, the mini Miyoo Flip and the RGSP. Remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones because tomorrow's never promised. We'll see you next time, Deadheads. Out.